Motor skills, collaboration for sure. Kids will definitely be collaborating. Creativity, sharing, awesome. Sensory motor skills, imagination, yeah, coloring. Hi everybody. Good to see you all on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning if you're in Europe. Friday afternoon if you're in Asia. My name is Jake Whitten and I'm the head of academic experience at Studycat. So today is going to be all about learning through play. And this is a repeat of a topic I've done before. I did this a few weeks ago, but it was so popular, I thought I should put it on again for the guys in Europe. I know, it's a cool t-shirt, right? I like this t-shirt, thank you. So let me just ask you a question. Have a look at the kids on this slide and ask yourself, what skills are being developed on this picture? What skills are being developed? I hope you can all see the picture. It's some kids playing with Lego. I'm sure you can see it. Yeah? Great. Oh, I can't say your name. Shahista? Rashimova. Yeah, right. So motor skills, collaboration for sure. Kids will definitely be collaborating. Creativity, sharing, awesome. Sensory motor skills, imagination, yeah, coloring, yeah, color IDing for sure. Sorting. There's maths in there as well, right? Oh, I've got 6. I need 3 more, right? Shape. There's so many things happening on this one picture. So much is happening. And is anyone here who has children? Hands up if you have children. Teamwork for sure. Yeah, right. If you have children, you've seen this scene before. You've seen your child. My daughter's 6 years old, and I've seen her sitting with her friends just playing. And from my teaching point of view, I just see how much they are learning. And then I think, well, what am I missing in my classes, right? And who is teaching them? Who is teaching them in this picture? Who is the teacher? Yeah, awesome. So this is the theme for the whole session today, that when kids are left to play, they're obviously going to learn more. But I'll give you an overview. We're going to look at some, well, I'll show you in a minute. We're going to do one more thing first. Just one more little bit of context setting. Can you see these 4 names over here? 5 names. Do you know these guys? Maslow, Jung. They're all great philosophers, right? Or great psychologists. Piaget, Plato, Bart Simpson, Carl Jung, psychologist, and Abraham Maslow. I'm going to show you a quote, and you have to guess who it is, okay? Are you ready? Are you ready? I show you a quote, you guess who it is. Do not keep children to their studies by compulsion, but by play. Who said that? Which one of these 5 people said that? It's all very male, isn't it? Anyone want to guess? Who said that? Was it? Ooh, let's find out who was first. Ooh, okay. I'm not going to tell you the answer yet, okay? Next one. Next one. I think Elizabeth might be doing well on that one, though. Next one is, who said, the creation of something new is not accomplished by intellect, but by the play instinct. The play instinct. Who do you think said that? I think you guys are right with that one. I can't actually remember, so I've got to look it up. But I'll show you on the next slide. I'll give you the answers. Yeah, I think it was Jung. Next one, just do this quickly. Almost all creativity involves purposeful play. So creativity involves purposeful play. Who do you think said that? I love you guys that are typing so much. I don't see Erica typing. Ooh, it might have been Maslow, Sahani, Maya, Grace. I think it was Maslow. Pretty good. Okay, next one. Next one was, next one I should say. If you want to be creative, stay in part a child with the creativity and invention that characterizes children before they are deformed by adult society. I think you can guess this one from the yeah. Anyone? You guys are awesome. So you all studied these guys before a little bit. Yeah, I think it was Piaget or Piaget, depending on how you say it. Because you can tell he's talking about the stages of development. So the last one is fun does not come in sizes. So let's have a guess who that was. All right, I'm going to give you the answers now. Yeah, okay, here's the answers. You can take a screenshot if you like. It might be useful, or you can save it for later. I'll share this out with you after. Look, the point of me sharing this with you is that, even 2,000 years ago, people were aware that play, that it was part of learning, right? That all these people here talk about the idea of fun or play as part of the way we learn, and even Bart Simpson. So this is not something that is some strange idea, but I will say, and we'll come back to this, is it seems sometimes to be taken away from some places. Parents are afraid that playing is not learning or something, but I think by the end of this, my goal today is to convince you the more we put play and fun into learning, the better outcomes we'll have. Let's move on. So today, I'm going to give you we're going to look at the idea of play versus games. Now, that's an interesting concept. I will talk about that in a minute. We're going to have a look at a history lesson of learning through play and really look at what people were doing 100 years ago. It's very impressive to think that 100 years ago they were ahead of what we're doing now. I'm going to look at the present, and I'm going to focus around some app-based play learning. So I'm going to be showing you an app, and we're going to play some games together. So you guys have to be involved, okay? And I'm going to test you on how we can expand from the games in the app. And then lastly, which is just to sum up, is just some final thoughts on what you can be doing. So that's the 4 things we're doing today. But if you have been to my webinars before, I always start with a story. So I'm going to start with a short story about something that happened to me. Well, that's good, Grace. Hopefully you'll be back. Grace Fazio. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm probably terrible. Grace Fazio. Okay. Yeah, great. And Euphemia? That's okay. So let me start with a story. I always start with a story. So a little while back, at the end of last year, I was in Cambodia. This is in Cambodia. And Studycat works with a charity there. And we work with teachers, and we donate some apps to students, and we help these kids that if they can learn English, they'll have more opportunity. So I'm going to tell you a story about this. And this is me, as you can see, in the same T-shirt. And we have helped them by donating them some tablets and some app-based learning for the classroom, where there are kids from disadvantaged areas where they can come in and do some language learning as part of their class to help motivate them to want to learn English for the future. So we were playing this game, very simple game here. You must know this game, right? It's just where they turn over all they have to do is turn over the cards. And I was just trying to find it on here. You know this game, right? I'll just play it for you quickly.
Yellow, orange, yellow, yellow.
Right, so it's a very simple game, right? Very easy to play, memory game, very easy to play. So I played that in the class, and firstly I played it on the big screen at the front of the class. And then I handed out the iPads, or they weren't iPads, they were tablets to groups in the class. And I said nothing. I just said, here's the game, play. And I didn't tell them any rules. I didn't tell them what to do. And it was really interesting because what I noticed was there were 4 groups of 5. And each group took on the game in a different way. So this group, they all took turns, 1, 1, 1, 1 in a circle. And every time they got a good, they did well, they gave each other a high five. So they played it in one way. This group had two teams. They had this team and this team. And they played where they had to race one side versus the other side to see who could get to the to flip the card fastest. Whichever team got the fastest, they got a point. But I didn't tell them to do that. They made that up on their own. Same game, different way to play it. The third group was very interesting because this boy didn't want to play with everybody else, and he took the app. He took the game and went over and said, I just want to play it with the teachers together. And his English was really good, so he wanted to just talk to the teachers about what was happening. So he played it in a different way again. And I mean, this was another group as well, and here they are playing. But the moral of this story was that even though they were all playing the same game, they all played it in a different way. And that's when I realized I was watching the kids create their own learning environment around the learning tools. And that's where I really started to solidify the idea that there is a difference between games and play. And when they got left on their own and I didn't tell them what to do, they actually were saying the words, learning the words, remembering the words, and doing really well with that vocabulary. So that's just a little story to show you, but it sort of sets the idea today that this difference between games and play. So let's continue on. Yeah, so as I said, they made their own rules. They used their imagination to play the game. So I hadn't told them what to do. They had to be creative to come up with their own way of playing. There was no extrinsic motivation. I didn't tell them they were going to get a prize at the end. I didn't say you're going to win anything. There was no extrinsic motivation. It was all about their peers and working together. And at the end, what I thought was great was that they all cheered together, like, yay, we finished the game together. So when kids are left on their own, and what I would have done if I'd been teaching in China, I would have had a rule like your turn, then your turn, then your turn. But when I left them on their own, they did a lot better with the actual learning outcomes. So, oh, sorry, I should have actually blocked this off. I'm just going to do that really quickly. What do you guys think are the difference between? Let's just block this off. I'm so sorry. Okay, you've already seen some of it, but what do you think are some of the differences between games and play? So what would be under games, do you think? What would be the type of things that you would see under games, even though I've just shown you? Yeah, probably some rules, maybe. Definitely, Erica. Let's see what the other people are typing. Yeah, rules. Games have a specific goal at the end. That's a really good one, Daniel. Where are you today, Daniel? And that's what you notice with that specific goal at the end in the game. But when they're playing, the goal can change 5 times throughout the game. Like they're playing, there is no, when I see my daughter playing tag or a game out in the forest near my house with the kids, the rules keep changing all the way through. They're making them up as they go along. Yeah, games have structured play, less structured for play. Play is no winners. The only winner is themselves, right? They might have winners, but it's not just focused on the winner, right? It's like the idea of when you have a game of football, it's even called a football game, or you go down to the park to play football. And I think psychologically, we already do it. We already say, I'm going to go play football, and that's with some friends. But when it's a game, it's a match. It's a competition, right? Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're in Guatemala. Oh, I love this. We've got the whole world represented. So let's have a look. And I think once you start separating these two things out, and you'll realize, because a lot of us English teachers, we love to play games in class, but are we really letting them learn as much as they could? I'm not saying you should never play games. Yes, so games have, get a little pen for you. Games have more controlled rules. They usually have points. It's some sort of point system, right? There is extrinsic rewards, right? That's usually an extrinsic reward might be, well, it could be the points, or it could be a medal, or it could be a sticker or something at the end. And what you tend to have is, yes, Grace Fazio, I really like your input today. It's that idea, right? And this is what I'm going to get to today. And in games, they tend to have winners and losers. But as Grace just said here, in games in our classrooms, they are usually very teacher-centered, very teacher-centered. And, you know, we really strive to have student-centered classrooms is always what we talk about. I like to talk about learning-centered classrooms. If learning is happening, then it shouldn't be whether it's teacher or student-centered. It's the fact that learning is at the center of the classroom. But gameplay is usually very teacher-centered. It's usually a teacher standing at the front, 2 teams, you're on this side, you're on this side, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this. But what that means is that the children have no control over what they're doing. You're controlling the class. But we know if we give kids more control over their learning, they're going to learn something on their own, like we saw with the Lego, like we saw in the Cambodia pictures, like when a kid learns to ride a bike. You kind of let them go on their own, right? And they learn. So let's have a look at this one. In in play, yes, less rules. Maybe there are no points. Now, I think that someone wrote just here, I think it was Daniel said it was, someone here said something about someone said about the rules are defined by the children, and someone else said, what did Daniel say? He said games would have a specific goal at the end. So yeah, in play, you see kids playing together, but the rules keep changing. They just keep making up new rules. No, this is how we're doing it now. Because really, it's not about a winner or a loser. The intrinsic rewards is, what would be the intrinsic reward of play? What is some of the intrinsic reward? I'm interested to see what you guys think. Jovita, I think I'm saying it right. If you're Polish, I can't tell. So what are some of the intrinsic rewards you get when you're in play? Oh, I think people are typing, but it's all the way down here. Yeah, you get, yeah, I like that one, Dione. The perseverance for sticking to something. You get satisfaction, right? Emotional, yeah, you get to feel happy. Happiness is an awesome intrinsic reward. I'm going to do this because I'm going to feel happy, right? You get pride. You get to play with your friends, right? You get that peer acceptance from each other. You might learn something and you feel good. You know, when you see kids, the other day I saw my daughter and she was in a group of kids and they were trying to work out how to get the little frogs from the forest and take them to the water. But they wanted to do this thing where they could carry the water halfway and put the frogs in the water. But they were just playing. But after a while, they worked out how to do it. So there's a sense of achievement as well, right? Because they worked out how to get the frogs from the forest to the water without taking them out of water. It had no purpose except for moving frogs. I don't know why. Okay, so let's move on. So this is just this idea that try to think about, and we're going to get onto this with a little theory structure I'm going to show you in a minute, but this idea that play has less rules, games are more controlled. So when we're learning a language, and we're language teachers, I don't know if all of you are language teachers, but a lot of this is focused around language. We have this idea of kids need to learn a natural language naturally. You need to be exposed to the language in some way. You need to start noticing things, and then you can understand, right? You need to be exposed, you start to notice, and then you understand how to do it. So things like you see someone riding a bicycle, you notice that there's pedals, then you get on and you kind of understand. Then you can start practicing the language, right? Then you can start doing something with it, and then you can use it. I tell you why I tell you this is because what most people do in class is, a lot of people I see is doing a lot of practice. And that's usually around games. Like, here's some new language. Now let's play some games and practice. But what I'm interested in is there's a lot that can happen here. We tend to forget about this, that there's a lot of input that needs to go in, a lot of silent period, as Krashen would call it, Stephen Krashen would call it. But you need to let it go in. And a lot of that happens in play. When you see kids in play, they're kind of letting the language go around them. They're trying to let the thing happen around them. And then they understand, and then they get the confidence to do something. Yes, exactly. But I don't really want to go on about this. I have another whole webinar on this, so I won't talk about this much. Let's have a look. So I'm going to talk about 5 aspects of playing and learning. This is just from one book that I like, but it's I think it's useful. There's lots of things you can look up. You can look up the Lego. Lego have a lot of theories on play and learning, but I just particularly like this one. So this is from a game, a great book called Einstein Never Used Flashcards. And it's this idea, the quote I like from it is that children possess a natural curiosity. I'll start again. Children possess a natural curiosity to explore and play. So that acts as a medium to do so, right? So the fact that they have this curiosity to play means that they can use play to satisfy their curiosity. And in this book, which is by Hirsch and Pasek, which are really a great group of people, they actually do a lot of work on app-based learning, on the science of learning, and they came up with these 5 elements. I'm just going to wait for Grace's question here. I think I read. So the first element, I'll wait for Grace. Grace, if you're typing something. Oh, okay. No, I don't, but I'm going to write that down. I'll remember to have a look it up, okay? Thank you. Yeah, I think if everyone can, it's always nice when people share. Please, guys, feel free to share anyone that you recommend that's worth looking at, but I'll have a look at it. So number 1 out of the 5, number 1 is play must be pleasurable and enjoyable. That seems like very obvious, right? That sort of goes back to that Piaget and Maslow thing, that it needs to be enjoyable to be called play. Otherwise, no one wants to really do it. Number 2, play must, and I don't really like this word must, but play has no extrinsic goals. And there is no prescribed learning that must occur. So it doesn't mean learning doesn't occur. It means that we don't know exactly what learning will come out of it. Some learning will happen, but it shouldn't be prescribed, because once it's prescribed, it's not play. It's then teacher-centered, or it's you telling them what to do. So it doesn't have to have extrinsic goals. I actually do a whole session on motivation, and I find teachers, when I've traveled all around Asia training teachers, they find it very hard to remove extrinsic goals in class, because extrinsic motivators are very easy. Here's a sticker, here's a tick, here's a smiley face. And it's too easy, right? It solves a problem now, but it doesn't keep people learning for a long time. And most evidence shows that. Number 3. Play is spontaneous and voluntary. So with my Cambodia story, I put down the iPads. I didn't tell them what to do. Admittedly, I told them they're in a group, but I just said go. And then what they chose to do was voluntary and spontaneous. So when you're in class sometimes, think about that. Think, how can I create an environment that lets kids be spontaneous and voluntary? You know, even if it's as simple as just the colors, right? I mean, a bunch of blocks on the ground, at least they're picking them up, looking at them. Maybe they're saying them in their L1, in their mother tongue, but you're setting a context in an enjoyable and fun way, right? And then with more advanced language, you know, you can just let them be playing with anything and see how they're going to negotiate with that stuff that you're letting them play with. Play involves active engagement on part of the player. So it's not just watching something, right? And that's a big one I find in, yeah, but that's great, right? I mean, Nayera, sometimes it is difficult to know what they're going to do. Great. If you can be strong enough in yourself to let go of the control of your classroom. By the way, there's another webinar in our series on on learner autonomy. But a lot of that is about teachers not wanting to give over control to the students. So if you let them, just set aside 5 minutes and just look at what happens and just see what happens, right? And then you'll start to see some patterns of behavior emerging. I just want to make the point that it involves active engagement. How many games have you played in class? And I think a lot of people I see doing this, where there's 10 kids and 10 kids, and 2 kids are doing something, and the other 9 kids on each team are just watching. They're not actually doing anything. It's sort of passive engagement, right? I'm watching it, but I'm not in the game. I'm just watching the game happen. And that's okay in some points, because you need that time for receptive understanding. But yes, you can have all the sheets afterwards, and I'll upload the video. I didn't in the last few weeks because we had a problem with the platform, but we definitely will. Yeah, Dione, I mean, it's nice that you can see that, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but remember, every time that there is a group of kids just watching 2 other kids, it's really quite receptive. They're not doing that much. So obviously it's better to, it's like dialogues. Get them talking to each other, not to just 2 at the front, right? But there's a place and a time for each one. So let them be active together. Yeah. And then the last one, and this is a bit hard. I like this, but it's a bit hippie for me. It involves some element of make-believe, right? Which is the classic one with the kids. So when my daughter's in the plays down here in our local area, they play, they're superheroes, or they're Automan, or they're playing some, fighting game. I don't know what they're doing, but there's a lot of, how will they get failures? Yeah, exactly. So I'll come back to that point, T.I. I think it's your name. There should be some element of make-believe, is what Hirsch says, that there's this, that you want to let the kids have some place where they can create something on their own, or they're acting something out, right? I see your point, how they get along with the failures, right? So what I think the role of the teacher is monitoring and just seeing what's happening. Just, if the parents let you, and you can film it and have a look at what they did and see how they interacted with each other. Did they use some language that they shouldn't, that was going to help them? You could just say there's only one rule. You've got to play in the language you're learning. Anyway, I'm going to go on because I'm running a bit behind time. So, guys, I'll send you these. But remember, pleasurable and enjoyable, no extrinsic goals, spontaneous and voluntary, and active engagement, and make-believe if you can. The idea of play, though, is that it helps develop motivation, because the kids have all the control over what they're going to do. It lowers their anxiety, which, if you've all read Stephen Krashen's effective filter hypotheses, it's all about lowering that anxiety, right? Because I can now do what I want to do. If you're encouraging them to speak English in the play, oh, good to meet you there from Sulawesi. Oh, great to meet you there. It intensifies some practice, and what I love most is that it develops all these other skills, right? People think going to an English class is just reading, writing, speaking, listening. Of course it's not. We want to develop collaboration skills and critical thinking and turn-taking skills and negotiation skills, which is what happens in play. And if you just let them associate that in class, even if they do it in their L1, they start to see a link between that and the English class. Moving on. Let's have a history lesson. You guys have been great, by the way. All the interaction has been awesome. So all of this idea of play is not a new idea. None of it's a new idea. I'm going to test you now. Who can name any of these 5 people? And they're not the first 5 people. These are the pioneers of play. Who can name some of these people? I reckon Grace is, I know which one Grace is going to write. Grace is going to write the most famous Italian. Oh my God. Who got verbal? Oh, I just pressed the wrong button. Sorry, guys. Back to presentation. Yay. Oh, Grace, I thought you were going to write Montessori because if you're in Italy, I thought that everyone would know which one was Montessori, right? Yeah. And someone got verbal. I can't believe it. Have you been to this webinar before? No one ever gets that one. Okay, let's see. I'll give you guys another 20 seconds. Is anyone in here Chinese? Because there's a very famous Chinese guy in here as well. Good to meet you, Novi. Wow, you did? You created your own program using Frobel. I mean, I guess the whole world did eventually when we have a look at it. Okay, let me tell you all about these five people, I should say. Now, apparently you're not allowed to say guys anymore for both people, but I think it's okay. So there's Frederick Frobel, I'll tell you about. Frobel. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Erica could probably help me and correct me. Montessori, Maria Montessori, the famous kindergartens you see all around the world and primary schools. Vygotsky, you must know Vygotsky. I'll tell you a bit more about him. John Dewey and Chen He-chin. So let's have a little bit of a further look. Frederick Frobel. Frederick Frobel came up with the children's garden. Do you know another name for children's garden, everybody? Yeah, well, of course you know because you did this in Indonesia. Yeah, Dione, very good. So basically, Frederick came up with the kindergarten, right? Yeah, he came up with the kindergarten, and the whole idea was that he wanted to emphasize child-centered learning through touching, feeling, and experience. And this was in the 1800s. He thought if kids can come in, play, and do things together, they're going to learn things by touching, feeling, building, and hands-on. Way back in the 1800s. So it's great that education was kind of more advanced then than sometimes now. Now we seem to send kids off to kindergarten and then they've got to do maths and then piano and then this is in China and then this and then this and they forget about the fun part. Next, and I really love Montessori. I think Montessori's had such a big impact on the world and guarantee impacted some of your teaching. If you've done the CELTA course or a CERT TESOL course, some of her theories are there. But this was early 1900s, and she was all about psychological development, using the senses. Again, lots of hands-on, lots of self-reflection. So, right, once they play, then ask them questions about how did they go. Lots of intrinsic motivation and very child-centered. Another one. I mean, she has had such a big impact on education around the world. They're really, in China, for example, there's not a city you can go to without a Montessori kindergarten. They're everywhere. And I'm sure it's the same in most of your countries. I'm not sure if it's in Italy anymore. It'd be amazing. This guy is probably one of my heroes when it comes to language learning and any learning. But this is Vygotsky. And Vygotsky came up with the zone of proximal development. So the zone of proximal development is the gap between what you can do on your own, what you can do with a teacher, and what's in between. So what do I need help with? And always getting people to the next out of what they can do on their own, and that's how you keep them learning. And it was really, and play, he was a fan of play as well, because when kids play, they're not afraid to take that extra step. In language learning, if anyone can remember, do you know what Stephen Krashen calls this, where there's what you know and that one little step further than what you know? Does anyone know what he calls it? I bet Pippa Simmons jumping in there. Yeah, input plus one. I mean, really, Krashen and Terrell's theory is just Vygotsky's own proximal development. It's almost copy and pasted, right? It's exactly the same. It's whatever you can do now plus a little bit more, not plus 100 bits more, which they are guilty of in China sometimes. Now you know the colors. Let's learn 900 other things. Let's just keep plussing a bit more. Don't just keep them in their safe zone. And play is a great way to do that because kids do it naturally. The next one is John Dewey. John Dewey's the same thing again. He believed in constructive play, make-believe play, and hands-on. Does anyone else know what John Dewey invented? Maybe for those people over, if there's anyone here over 40, Erica, maybe. I'm not saying you're over 40. What else did John Dewey? Yeah, Dione, you're a star today. I grew up with the Dewey Decimal System, right? Yeah, Dewey Decimal System. Well done, Dione. So that's a way that you can, it was for libraries, and when you want to find books, there used to be cards before they had computers, and you'd have to search through the numbers, and then you could find the number on the book and then go find the book. That's what I thought he did, but actually he was a pioneer in constructive play and make-believe play in education. And yeah, a bit of a hero. And lucky last, Chen He-chin was actually a student of John Dewey's, and he was based in Nanjing in China. And oh, right, cool. Yeah, interesting, Elizabeth. So Chen He-chin was based in China, in Nanjing, and he set up his own kindergartens. They were these huge kindergartens based on using authentic materials, natural environments. I actually had a picture, but I can't find it now, where it's all outside and the kids are playing on things and learning how to negotiate all these things and building things. And it's interesting that it came from China, because China's kind of flipped. It's coming back, but China got very obsessed with test-based learning, but even though one of the pioneers was all about fun and play. Okay, so that's just 5 guys. So unfortunately, we still see a lot of classrooms like this, right? Lines, no fun, no play, staring at the front of the classroom. We have seen a lot of classrooms like this. Are your classrooms more like A or B? Or even more advanced? Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think this is, even just the way where kids sit in the classroom has come from this idea of play. Let the students talk to each other. Oh, that's a shame. C, yes. I'm sure C is even more exciting, right? And I'm thinking Paula, Nastasi, Paula. I'm sure you have, and I won't get into it. Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it, Grace? But I think what we're starting to see is some C's, right? Where it's like you see cushions in the corner and you see blocks and things to play with over here, and kids have time to go into their own spaces, and they're not just forced to sit at the desk and stuff. Well, there is no C, right? It was just someone said C, right? But A, B, and then the next version of this is that there are more open space, more place for kids to enjoy things, space where kids can come into the classroom when it's lunchtime and just use things and enjoy themselves in a learning environment, so that we're really shifting that way. And people like John Hattie are obsessed by this idea, visual representations of learning and stuff. But anyway, let's move on. So in the present, there's lots of things happening. One of the big things now in most schools, as you all know, yeah, that's awesome. Hey, can I just ask you, Euphemia, are you, where are you? Are you in Guatemala, did you say, or are you in Italy? I'm really interested to know, because I think, oh, you're actually in Jakarta. See, this is what's so interesting, right? We have this global audience, and we get to find out what people are doing in different countries. So Grace says, in Italy, they're more in lines, but then we're hearing in Jakarta, we're getting these nice big areas for playing. In China, in the same city, you get one school with all lines. Then in my daughter's kindergarten, it's all big play areas, and they can do all these different things, and they have all these areas they can go do things. So it's interesting to see different places around the world and hearing what different people are doing. So sorry, one last thing I want to show you is the big talk of, you all probably know these, the 4 C's: communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. Yeah, it's a shame, right? But we're moving away from that. So what I want to show you today is, one more thing I want to show you before the end of this session is, let's play. Now, there is one place it's very hard to change your classroom environment, but what you can change is the tools your kids use. Now, I'm not sure in every country, but in most in China, for example, or in a lot of Asian countries, kids have access to at least a parent's smartphone. They have access to some sort of tablet, maybe. I think most of them do. So I just want to show you some games on an app and show you how you can integrate, like how kids can use these at home for learning, how they can use them in the classroom. They're also available on a big screen. But I want to ask 4 questions. I'm going to play a game. First thing I want you to do is tell me, what are the rules? What is the language point? Does it develop 4 C's? But most importantly is, how can we start turning it from a game into play? So 4 questions. What are the rules? That's usually the easiest bit. What is the language point? Does it develop any of the 4 C's? And how can we make it into more play? Okay, so let's have a look. I'll start with simple games, and then I'll go into more difficult games. So I'm going to change over to the big screen. Am I on the big screen now, guys? Hi. Thank you, everybody. Let's have a look. I'm going to bring down the camera. It should focus on this. Let's get it a bit closer. It should focus on this. Let's get it a bit closer. Okay. So this is a simple game, right? This I'll go back to, let's just do a simple game to start with, okay? Let's turn it up a bit, and then I'll do more difficult games. So I'm just going to play the game for 1 minute.
Orange, red, yellow, orange, 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 red, red, yellow, blue, 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 yellow, yellow.
Okay, 1 more minute, 1 more second. And you can see it gets a little bit harder. It starts to scaffold a bit.
Orange, orange.
Oh, that was lucky.
Pink, red, red, red,
okay.
Yellow, blue, pink, blue, 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 yellow, yellow, pink, pink.
Okay, so this one was super simple. I just want to play one simple game first. So the rules are pair up the colors. Yes. What's the language point? Colors, right? Super easy. Does it develop any of the 4 C's, do you think? Do you think there's any creativity in there? Any critical thinking? Maybe not. The things start to move a bit, which means there's a bit of scaffolding. But how could you turn this into a play? What could kids... So you don't need to answer this one. So this is the one I used in Cambodia, and the kids had to play by racing to press who could press it first, right? And then they had to be the first person to remember where it was. I've seen other kids where they do it where they block half of it, right? And then you can't see what it is. I've seen kids do it where they have to do it blindfolded. Some of my class will say, okay, I want to play. And then they blindfold the other kid, and they've got to try and do it like that. I mean, there's so many different things that they can do to turn the game into more of a playing thing, right? But let's look at some other ones, because that's too simple, okay? So I'm going to move into, I'm going to play a little bit more difficult one. Let's get out of level 1. Let's go into level 2, a little bit harder. And I want to do, let's just do another really simple one. This one. And let's do this one. Okay. Sorry, you couldn't see. Now you can see.
2 dogs.
A rabbit. A dog. A rabbit.
2 dogs.
A cat.
Oh, no. Oh, it's starting to get a bit harder. I'll just play one more round for you quickly.
3 rabbits. 3 cats. 3 birds.
A mouse.
3 dogs. 3 birds. 2 mice.
Oh, I
3
missed it.
rabbits.
Okay. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. What was the language point? What was the grammar point or the language in here? Yeah, so numbers, animals, and plurals, right? Singulars and plurals, right? So 1 rabbit, 2 rabbits, right? Okay, so what was the rules? Very simple. All you had to do was and then all you had to do was hit the thing. And then when you see kids playing together, obviously they do it where there's 2 on either side of the room. I've seen it where they put the iPad in the middle of the desk and they have to run, or the phone, right? Because most parents have the phone, and 2 kids play and they put it down and they stand back. And one kid is like 1 step back, the other kid's 1 step back. So they have to kind of run to get it before it goes down. And I never create that for them, right? They just create that extra game around this game. They play something more because they want to make it more fun, and then it makes another layer. But they're still getting some practice for the words, right? They're still getting something, or they have to yell out the word first and then say it, or something like that. Okay, let's play one more. I mean, there's over 500 different things you can do in here. I'll just go into level 3. And this one, I need all of you to try and do it, okay? So this one is, let's do this one. I like this one. So this is about, okay, so look at the picture for 10 seconds. I won't do anything else, tell you what to do. Look at the picture. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's see what you remember.
What color is it?
Okay, so let's imagine. Oh, what color was it? Can you remember? Gray. Okay.
Gray.
What about its head?
So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What about its head? Okay, I'm going to go with 4. We have more people saying 4.
What hair does it have?
What hair does it have? Okay, we said 1.
How about its ears?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
What about its nose?
What about its nose? I'm going to trust Euphemia.
Which eyes does it have?
Ooh, which eyes does it have? 1 or 6? Okay, I think more people said 6.
What does its mouth look like?
Okay.
Okay, let's take a look. Color. Head. Hair. Ears. Nose. Eyes. Mouth. 5 out of 7.
Whoa,
You're
good.
getting closer.
You actually did a really good job, guys. Usually when I do this, we get about 1 out of 7. Did some of you take a screenshot? So 5 out of 7 was good. Usually then, so what was the topics there? There was a lot of language in that one because that was the highest level. That was, yeah, parts of the face, right? And then they had, so there was parts of the face, but you heard lots of receptive language, like what about his eyes? What about his ears? There was colors in there as well. What about his, how about? So there was some nice little chunks of receptive language. Usually then, what I find that kids do is I leave them, because you can actually play this on the big screen in the front of the classroom, and the kids will come up with different ways to do it, right? They'll do they'll try to draw it quickly, or they'll create their own version of it where they have to draw it on paper and then they have to play with each other. So what I'm trying to show you is that by using an game-based app that kids can add to that by playing around it. But it matches all those things we said at the beginning, that it needs to be fun, enjoyable. There doesn't have to be you don't win or not win, right? And it allows for some more imagination from it. I mean, I just showed you 3. If you send us an email, we can set you up with an account, and you can try as many. There's hundreds of games in here, all structured to Cambridge Young Learners, all with the whole curriculum and stuff. Yeah, and it's even more creative without the iPad, right? So what I usually do, very good point, Grace Fazio. So what I usually do is, after I've played these games, I'll just show you a few pictures from my classes. But, here's one where we have songs the whole way through the app. So then there's a song on every single topic, and you get the kids then want to play together. Who can hit it fastest? Who can do this? There are things you can do where they do voice recording. For this game, usually what we do after is the kids have to draw their own monster and then try and do it with each other. So they get more creative around that. Even this one, a really simple one where they just got to pop the bubbles for the colors. What happens is, after they want to draw the bubbles themselves, and then they want to pop the bubbles to do that on their own. So you're taking what's on the app and taking it back into the classroom again. What's nice is, though, the kids can do the app work at home, and when they come into class, they play at home with their brother, sister, mother, or on their own even. And when they come into class, they're more ready because they've been learning in a much more relaxed, spontaneous environment. I won't do this one with you. I'm going to skip past it. So guys, really, I just want to wrap up now, and I've really enjoyed all of your input today. I was just trying to show you a nice structure for creating some play. Try to have some fun with experimenting and getting away from, give me a second. Try and have some fun in class and get away from, try to do some research with your own students, right? So you were saying, well, what do I do with them? Or someone commented earlier, how do I know if they're failing or not failing? Well, just do some research, get them to play for a while. And then maybe at the end, they have to come up with 5 questions they want to ask you about what they were doing. Or, if they're playing with blocks, it might just be to start thinking about those colors. It's just a nice way to set a context. I find if you let the kids play at the end of class, they tend to use the language that they were using anyway. And then eventually they might just only use English to play. 2 more things to show you. Try to remove some rules from your game. So play a game and then say, okay, this time I want to play the game, but we're not going to have points. Or I'm going to remove one of the rules. Start to give them some control over what's happening, and then they'll be more likely to want to do it rather than you controlling everything. Yeah, focus on the intrinsic motivation of it. It's not always about points and stickers and scores and stamps. Sometimes it's nice just for them to play for the sake of playing because they're going to learn something from it anyway. Create a positive environment for them to do it, which is what some of you said. You've got areas for them to play in the room. And I know some of you teach older people, 10 years old, 11 years old. Playing doesn't stop when they're 11. Let them have a play around. You'll be surprised what an 11-year-old or 12-year-old or 13-year-old or even an adult wants to do when they have the opportunity and the freedom. And lucky last, as we always say, let the kids play. That's all I have to show you today. Please, if you're interested in checking out our Fun English for Schools app or our Studycat apps, you can go to www.studycat.com, which I'll send you a link to, and you can just get in touch with us, and someone will be in touch and set you up with an account for your school, and you can just try it out. Our next webinar is here, and it's on minds-on learning. It's how do you get kids not just do active learning, but minds-on learning. It's quite interesting if you're interested. And if you want to join our Studycat Club, everything is at studycat.com. Our Studycat Club, you just go on to studycat.club and click on it. It's free. There's 500, there's worksheets in there. There's lots of things. That means you can access all my webinars as well. Always a pleasure, guys. Have a wonderful Friday. It's been great to see people in 10 different countries from 4 different continents.